Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions. Yeah, this is Jesus' The Buck Stops Here Club, where we see so deeply the choice, that it is a choice for happiness. Well, it's really ceasing to choose not to be happy. So if we don't feel happy, that's what the ego doesn't want to see, that it's a choice. It wants to maintain all the choice of control and the little fiefdom. So it's really good to go through lesson 48 today and be reminding there's nothing to fear. I was just asking Jesus, so fear is an interpretive functioning in consciousness. It's an interpretation of what's not happening. It's a play of other. It's that shark. It goes out and it looks for a reason why it needs to be fearful. Gets to be really funny because you never know exactly what's going to start coming out of your mouth. What Jesus has to say, but then we can just relax, just not be attached to anything we say. Oh, I could see that was a play in consciousness to worry about whatever would come out of our mouth. It was like constant editing. That's exhausting. No wonder we need to go to have a nap about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Or like we're duking it out in the beehive, in the bat cave of consciousness with all those bats flying in there. It was just the greatest scene in Batman Begins, where he started out really as a young boy falling down like a well into a cave. And then all these bats came, and of course he was afraid of bats. And he saw that he needed to stand into it. So there's just a phenomenal little clip there where all the bats are just coming and coming and coming, and he's just standing there in the bat cave. It's like the foundation for the spirit to develop a relationship that takes us beyond fear. I'm asking Jesus, so it's helpful to see fear as a miscreation. It's impossible. He says, just look at the light of divine being and hunt around in there as much as you can to find an experience of fear and light. Yet we have to unlearn fear because we learned it. Fear is something learned because our natural state, light, doesn't know what that is. You can see it. Look, it's the light of divine being. It's like get to know light. We like throwing out, consciousness loves throwing out little shadows out there to duke it out. We'll have little shadow puppets. You know, when you're a kid, you play little shadow puppets on the wall and you shine the light through the shadow puppets. Except we're believing all the little shadow puppets. It's really helpful to have reflections that tell you all is well. And we see that in the light, that's all well. It's just the idea that we don't want it to be well. Is the ego a play of not wanting to feel well, not wanting to be natural? You can hear that yes from Jesus. It's already starting, releasing the tension. It's fantastic. As you can see, if you have one little bit of fatigue, like the tiniest, ask Jesus, like teeny tiny itty bitty speck of fatigue. Is that a denial? And then you just release to a miracle. As we talked about early on, miracle constipation. That's exactly what it is. Except we're choosing it. You can ask him, Jesus, am I choosing to suppress miracles? He said, that's why you must release miracles to my control, because consciousness is a play to keep them suppressed. So what we're really suppressing? Miracles. It's a desire to suppress miracles. Which is same as desire to deny our infinite lights, here to kill the light. And that's an experience that arises commonly. The desire to kill. But until it's seen, we're not going to kill ourselves. It's impossible to kill ourselves. It's impossible to kill someone else. Till we've seen that all the killing is killing light from awareness. You can ask Jesus. So Jesus, all the thoughts I have about killing, and those will come up. Is it killing someone truly, or is it me trying to have an experience where light is does not seem available to me? Do I have a desire below my level of awareness just to kill light out of my awareness? Then that's honesty of God. Then we can just admit it. And start to see the constellation of ways, the plethora of ways that consciousness plays to kill light from awareness. The desire not to be it. So Jesus, is this whole thing just me saying no to being light? Is that like the whole thing, like right there? In totality, it's just a one big fat no to the recognition that I'm already light. And it was really beautiful yesterday to be reminded that what Jesus had showed me. And so I needed to see it again. So it came again, that when we notice, when you're as the light, just noticing light itself, there's no fear, resting as that. It's restful. You can release just relax. No thoughts. Yet if you look from this perspective of thought-based ego, you will feel fear. It's like instant. If you look at the light, not as the light, but at the light, you will feel terror, because that brings up the functioning in consciousness to feel terror when it looks at the light. You can ask Jesus that. So if I'm feeling afraid, I'm looking at the light, not with the light. So that's why Jesus said, join with me in a moment of light and look as the light with me. See, we stand shoulder to shoulder with him and then look at what's arising rather than be in it, embroiled in the thoughts and feelings and emotions. Whenever a person looks at light, it's going to be terrified. You can ask Jesus, Jesus, is that 100% probability that if I look at the light as a person, I'm going to be absolutely terrified? See, it's always about the interpretive function in consciousness. Consciousness is interpretive function is miscreation to look at light and be afraid of it. But as the light itself, we just look at the light, it's just there, we can't get away from it. And do the light test, go for a run, take a plane to the farthest edge of the earth, and then just kind of notice, is the light, so is there still a light here? Is there infinite light of being here? So all the voice for God is checking in. It's a reminder to check in with light rather than look at the light from this perspective of consciousness. Because consciousness is function to scare the bejesus, because it likes the ride of being bejesus. See, it likes the ride of fear. It likes that. Ask them, do I really relish fear, that ride, the fear ride? Do I relish fear more than God? See, when the relishing energy clears out, you just, there'll be little kerfuffles and little plays, but there won't be terror. Because terror is a desired experience. And we see it in consciousness. What does consciousness love? A lot of plays in consciousness. Likes to go to an amusement park, climb up or take the stairs up to the top, and then get on one of those little drop-off rides and scream all the way down and then go, I think I'm going to ride. I'll never do this again. And you turn around and they're back in the line, lined up to go again. We're going to go again. Because consciousness loves it. The tallest search all over creation for the thrill ride. See, it's the adrenaline rush. And in search for the highest possible roller coaster. Nothing's wrong with it. Other than light doesn't have a need to get on a roller coaster to scream its way down. It just, it just. Yet the Holy Spirit can use that in purpose. Jesus said, go jump out of a plane. Okay. I feel a little tension over that. Just thinking about it. So then I can forgive that. But you can see how consciousness plays. A thought and an image. And whenever we're living in images, we will feel fear. You can feel it immediately. Okay. If that thought arose, we're all gonna, our assignment from Jesus, we're gonna go all jump out of plane. Now just see how calm you are. Just that thought. See one thought arising. And just notice what happens, a single thought. And then the ego goes out in its reference cabinet and goes, God, that's dangerous. But the ego makes the danger and then interprets the danger. So now we talk, there's nothing to fear. And I was reading in the text, and Jesus was talking to Helen about phobias and saying that, there's always something deeper underneath a phobia, and there always is. Because then I realized, because one of the coaching thing was just phobias, is working with phobias. It was helpful for me to see the structure of how phobias, because then I knew for sure this is just a God phobia. I'm saying, Jesus, same thing applies. Fear of heights, fear of cemeteries, fear of rats, it's all the same thing in the play of consciousness. It will bring, or snakes, or it just plays to bring the image very close. It's just one of the many ways the fear of love is masked. And as we release these desires, the phobia of God just falls away. Because ask Jesus, Jesus, this is just a desired experience of God phobia. You got an immediate yes on that. Is this like an immediate? So is consciousness just like a little thrill-seeking ride? Is that all it is? He said, you know it is. Just look. You know it's a little ride. But see, part of the play is to miscreate it and then pretend like it's forgotten that it was miscreated. He said, yeah. Okay, so help me just remember that, will you? He says, yes. He says, the only way for you to have peace is to see that you have miscreated it. So you can take back all the miscreations. The desire to fear snakes and rats and cockroaches and your brother. Do I have a phobia of my brother? Yes. Is that true? Because we pretend like we don't, but that's the truth. Because our brother represents the God phobia. And boy, until Jesus takes you on the chapter 20 ride, for me, at least that's what it took. You know, I had to see it all in the Reader's Digest version of the course. It had to be like right here. Okay. And then like I said, I'm going through every one going, yes, man, I still want that. Oh, I want that one too. Oh, then you see, oh, this is a fast way out, just to see everything that's wanted that's not God. But then it can be looked on with innocence. So as he said, there are two components. Look with me and follow me. When I send you out on an assignment, get on the plane or whatever it is, get the ticket, the bus ticket, whatever I'm assigning you. Do not pass go. Go. And join. We were talking about that yesterday, how if you do not join, you will suffer. Basically, it's a choice to suffer, not join. Ask him, Jesus, if I'm not joining, am I choosing to suffer? Yes, you're choosing to keep the pain as long as possible. And that's why in here that it's just 24/7 emphasized. Because if you, especially in where all there's looking, so the looking itself is going to bring into awareness all kinds of the kitchen sink of consciousness. You're going into that back tool shed that we've been throwing things into. You ever open up that door back there? You go, I don't know what your garage looked like. My house is like really neat, but if you opened up a closet, but Jesus is saying it's not your function to open the closet. It's your function is to stand with me and then let me show you, take one thing out and show it to you at a time. See how he's doing it? Otherwise, we just go screaming banshee into the night. Open that closet. It's like, oh my gosh. Look at all the stuff in here. No, because he says, because you're so used to being guilty that you need my help to take it out, because you'll be in terror. That's why he's doing the gentle way. But you must, like if the call of the heart is like to come to a place like this, or even Living Miracles, wherever you go, you will be in excruciating pain if you don't join. And make a commitment to yourself that you're going to join consistently. Because, we can just hear it in the joining sessions. The last thing I wanted to do is join. Yes, that's how the ego makes separate. You'll be really happy if you keep joining and you go fast with it and you're really willing to look. But if you don't, oh my gosh, you'll be in horror story. You'll be living in the haunted house. So joining is the antidote to fear, that given by Jesus, the antidote. Because it's stepping, like it's Batman standing and letting those bats fly and just stand into it. I'm more powerful than these bats. I am more powerful than these thoughts. I am more powerful than the idea I have about myself and what joining means. Joining is just coming together to see what's joined. The idea for today simply states a fact. It's not, I love that, a Jesus fact. There's the facts of the world that the moon, seemingly, Jesus says, those aren't facts at all. That the world's view is that, we're going to measure. This is now, just think about this. We're spending time measuring the distance between the earth and the sun, neither of which exists, and then you have a test at school to know how many miles between the earth and the sun. Jesus, is that a distraction? Yes. Because it's not, it's fantasy. That's what he said. It's not fact, it's a fantasy. So we just invest in fantasy. I will tell you everything you need to know that's practical. Oh man, I can see that. He's showing me, he's reminding me, like how we would go to school. Yeah, you notice you'd go to school and you'd have to learn all these facts, and then you'd be in terror taking a test about what those facts are. That is really deep. In the play of consciousness, is to go to school to learn a bunch of stuff about a bunch of things and then be terrified that you wouldn't know that stuff. And then you'd have dreams like, I don't know how many you had those dreams. Like, it seems a pretty consistent play in consciousness that after you've been to school, that you dream that you'd either go to school, you'd show up at school without clothes on, or that you'd have to take a test and you weren't ready for it. You hadn't studied. You hadn't been to class all semester. That was another one that played for years, like 20 years after college. That was, see, these are, how is it, how is it? We never really question these things. They're consistent play, but there's always an assumption. There was always an assumption that like inside of this head is something different from inside of that head over there. Yet we see there's so many clues that there's only one mind. It's hilarious. There's only one. There's like clues in the plethora because you can't get away from being one. You have to work really hard at it. Ask Jesus. Ask Jesus. So Jesus, am I working really hard to pretend like there's more than one? He says every bit of effort that arises in consciousness comes from that. Is that all the efforting is to be a person apart from the whole. That's effort. There's actually no effort. See that there's no effort to recognize light. Is it that you breaking a sweat? Are we breaking a sweat to notice that light's here? Oh, that's so humbling. Happily so. The idea for day simply states a fact. So let's just hear it from Jesus, because we can ask Jesus, is it a fact there's nothing to fear? In the light of divine being, honesty of God, can we find fear in that light? So Jesus, it's helpful to get to know the light. Yes, it is. To see that it's not chasing you around. It doesn't have a list. It doesn't include elf on the shelf. It's fear is fantasy. Ask what Jesus did. Fear is fantasy. Like when you're embroiled in it, it's not feeling so fanciful. He said, he's telling me directly, you must see this. You must see that that is fantasy. You're miscreating fantasies. Here's miscreation of fantasy. And he's reminding me to follow me is to actually reduce the level of fear. So you're going to have more fear if you don't follow him. See, the ego makes it like you're going to have more fear if you follow him. You know, it's less fear. It's to reduce the level of fear because you're joining. See, you're joining with him. And you're constantly using his interpretation, which is never fear because fear doesn't exist. So it's to reduce the level of fear, but we're so addicted. Jesus, ask him, am I addicted to fear, the experience? Do I relish it? And you can spend a lot of time with him, just clearing the relishing of fear itself. Do I want this? Do I relish it? That's what I'm asking him. He's saying that's what a dark night of the soul is. It's relishing fear and relishing specialness. Nothing arises without the desire for it. So if there's a dark night of the soul, there's a desire for that experience. As some have said, fear is false evidence appearing real. That Jesus will put a C in front of it and go, choosing false evidence appearing real. Choice, the choice to use evidence. The idea for today simply states a fact. It is not a fact to those who believe in illusions, but illusions are not facts. Okay, so let's just, this is a good one. Thanks, Jesus. So, Jesus, am I addicted to the facts that the ego presents? You know, there's just, you can't end run Jesus, you know, you just finally see, no. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. In truth, there is nothing to fear. It is very easy to recognize this. We can all recognize it because we're light. And the light doesn't know what fear is. It's an immediate knowing. Jesus, do I know in truth there's no fear? And it is. Do I just relish wallowing in it? Placing myself in that prison and going, help me, but not really wanting to be helped. But it's very different to recognize it for those who want illusions to be true. Might as well ask, Jesus, do I want illusions to be true? Today's practice periods will be very short, very simple, and very frequent. Merely repeat the idea as often as possible. You can use it with your eyes open at any time and in any situation. This is really, Jesus, thank you for the reminder. Any situations, he's giving us at least 280 different ideas, thoughts of God to remind us they can be used in every situation, and there isn't a situation where they can't be used at all times, 24/7. It is strongly recommended, however, that you take a minute or so whenever possible, close your eyes and repeat the idea slowly to yourself several times. So it's helpful just to notice a sense of relaxation when you say these words. It's particularly important that you use the idea immediately should anything disturb your peace of mind. Jesus, will you help us remember this? There's nothing to fear. This is really helpful to going through the course lessons again so deeply. Because it took quite a long time for me to go through the course. I think it took 4 years or something. Because I'd started and then, about day 60. There was something about day 60. I'm gonna have to really look at day 60. See what I didn't want to see. It was like, oh, this is too hot, and then start over and then do the lessons over and over. And Jesus is telling me it's helpful sometimes for that. It's needed. The presence of fear is a sure sign that you are trusting in your own strength. That is so good to be shown. See, we're trusting, giving trust over and faith. We're putting faith in what does not exist. Jesus says, every time you're feeling fear, you're putting faith in what does not exist. The awareness there is nothing to fear shows that somewhere in your mind, though not necessarily in a place you recognize as yet, you have remembered God and let his strength take the place of your weakness. The instant you are willing to do this, there is indeed nothing to fear. So that's the play in consciousness. Joining is the means given by Jesus to see that there's nothing to fear. So what does the ego do? Fear it. It'll put up every barrier to the very thing that will take you out of fear. That's why it's the bat cave. You go into the bat cave, you stand there and you let those bats fly and just see. Even with fear, just let it. But you see it starts falling away, because I remember I'd had some fear about heights. You just see this stuff, these things just start to fall away. And if you see them, then you just can use this lesson. We can just use it. There's nothing to fear. Okay, so Jesus, we're going to do the lesson. Okay. Merely repeat the idea as often as possible. There's nothing to fear. You can use it with your eyes open at any time in any situation. Strongly recommended that you take a minute or so whenever possible, close your eyes and repeat the idea slowly to yourself several times. Okay. Every twitch is fear. Wow. Relishing of fear. Thank you, Jesus, for showing us that fear is an illusion. There's no happiness without standing into the bat cave and realizing it's just an illusion. We kind of like the bat cave and running in there and being afraid of the thoughts. Jesus says, just see that this need not be. With that, I'd like to ask Lori if she would come share.
This is called Freedom.
Thank you, loves, for joining us. We love you from San Juan Cosa.